What's up guys, it's Z here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we're taking a look at the DESPIA archetype that came out in the Dawn of Majesty set, and to be honest, when people seen this deck they were just thinking about stuff like Shadows and Invoked, because DESPIA is not exactly an archetype, it's mostly an engine that uses for the fusion summons, and that's when it comes to mind for anyone who first sees this deck. But I decided to make it a little bit spicier because I know that everyone is tired of seeing Invoke and Shadows and pretty much everything that fusion related, so I decided to make a DESPIA Darklord deck because Darklords is one of my old favorite decks. I think it's one of the most beautiful decks in the game and a lot of people have been enjoying playing it, but the deck just has a lot of problems. But with this engine, I think that you can fix a lot of this deck's problems, so this is why I decided to profile this so I can show you exactly what this deck can do with the new cards. And if you have any other ideas of how you can use this deck, then of course you can comment down below. So now, before we begin with the video, if you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So starting off with the DESPIA monsters, we have of course 3 copies of Albert, the Jester of DESPIA. This is the main card. When you summon it, you search your branded spell and traps, and if a face-up fusion monster you control leaves the field either by battle or card effect, you special this card from your grave, and you negate the effect of a monster your opponent controls till the end of this turn. So this card is the main searcher because you need to get your field spell. The field spell is the card that gets you to your fusion summons, but it also gives you a wall when your opponent's trying to push through your boards. So it's a decent card to help you survive as well, so you can have an extra turn to try to come back. So yeah, it's an absolute 3-off, you have to max it out. Next we have 3 copies of Dramaturge of DESPIA. This is a level 8 monster that just gives you another monster to exist with Superbia, because when you're playing Darklords you figure out that sometimes you summon Superbia and then you bring back your Yugioh and then you don't really do anything with the Superbia other than just link it away. But this card, when it's fusion summoned, you basically special summon it for free from the graveyard. So yeah, it's a card that gives you a free level 8 body on the field, so you can go into stuff like Dingirsu, or you can go for 38 and Photolord if you're looking for more negates. So it does give you some more advantage when you're trying to fusion summon, because when you're trying to use fusions in decks like other than Shadows and Invoked, then usually you neg yourself by doing the fusion summon. So cards like these that give you extra effects when you're trying to fusion summon are very, very important. So yeah, this is why this card is here, and of course it's a trading target as well because it's a level 8. And the last Despian monster is 2 copies of Despian Strategy. This card gives you more advantage when you try to combine with other cards. On its own, it's really bad, honestly, but there are other cards that help you use its effect. So if this card goes to the grave by a card effect or a banished, you add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand, and you can also banish this card from your grave to set a branded spell and trap from your grave on the field, so it gives you back your field spell or another card that you can play. So yeah, it's a decent card. It's an allure target because it's a dark, so you can use it with that way, and there are other cards that you can get to the grave as well, or you can just get to the graveyard by fusion summoning it. So even if you draw it or even if it's in your deck, you do have ways to trigger its effect, so I think it's a decent card to have in the deck. For the Darklords, we have 3 copies of Darklord Yugioh. Of course, she's the main Darklord at this point. You just play her always at 3. She's a draw power. You need her to get cards to the grave, and then you bring those cards back so you can use them for either negate or go for Xyz or link material. 3 copies of Superbia. Some builds play less than 3, but I think in this particular build you have to see a Superbia no matter what because of cards like the trade-in, and of course when you're playing the Dramaturge because you want to go into rank 8s, because when you go for the first Darklord and you don't have anything else, that's usually not enough. But when you can do with this deck is you can go for the first Darklord, that go for an Appaloosa, and then maybe a 38 as well, and the first Darklord can bring back Darklords during your opponent's turn from the grave, so you can use the trap cards from the grave as well. So it's much more explosive version of Darklords, because usually Darklords are notorious for drawing 1,000 cards and then sending on stuff like maybe a Vanity's Fiend and then Darklord on the field to go for one of the traps in the grave, and that's usually never enough to win these days. So yeah, this is why I tried to make the deck more combo based, more explosive, and you need to be able to see a Superbia in order to do more of those combos because it gets you more monsters on the field. 3 copies of Indulge Darklord. You do have a lot of normal summons in the deck, but to be honest, even if you draw multiples, you don't really care because they're always fusion material from your hand for the first Darklord. So you just need to see at least one, either your Aluber, Indulge Darklord, or you play one more. And this card gives you a Darklord in your hand, you special summon a Darklord in your opponent's field. You don't really care about that because it's very easy to deal with monsters on your opponent's field. You just need this Yugioh search or the Superbia search to see the last combo pieces you need in order to go for those plays. So this is a very important card. And I also play 1 copy of Ukobak. I don't think you need to play more than 1 copy. It's just a card that it's here in case you need to send something specific. Usually you're going to be sending either one of those trap cards in order to be able to go for some more negates, or if you don't have a contact in the grave, you can send it to the grave and then copy it with an Yugioh, and then you can bring back another monster from the grave. So it's a decent one-off, but I don't think you should play more than 1, because compared to Indulge Darklold and Aluber, it's not that great of a normal summon because it doesn't give you an immediate advantage. You need more setup in order to be able to use its effect. And the last monster is 1 copy of Darklord Morningstar. You play 1 just because it's searchable, so you can use the nuke effect of your fusion monster, the first Dark Lord, because you need to use this as fusion material if you want to blow up the field. So it's a decent one-off. You hardly ever summon this card. You need to tribute summon in order to do so. So it's not that great. Yes, it does give you a lot of more monsters when you do, but it's the effort of normal summoning a monster that requires 2 tributes in a deck like this. It's like not worth it. So you play 1. You can cut it if you want, but I think it's playing 1 just for the nuke effect can come up a lot of times, especially when you're trying to push for games. So I think it's a decent one-off. And again, even if you draw it, and even if you don't really need to use the nuke effect because you're going first, it's just another monster you can fuse for the first Dark Lord. So yeah, being Dark Fairy, all of those monsters being Dark Fairies means that the synergy was always there, and just people were just not seeing it because they were tunnel visioning on Invoked and Shadows. So yeah, I think now you guys can actually see what this deck can do when I'll show you to the extra deck, so you can get more ideas of how you can play. Now for the spells, we have 3 copies of Despia Theater of the Branded. The field spell you need to play at 3. It's a card that will get you to your fusion monsters. So during the main phase, you can fusion summon level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on the field or in your hand. So usually you're going to be going for the first Dark Lord, but there is one more fusion monster to play in the extra deck just in case you don't have enough monsters to fuse with, because there will be some hands where you're going to open too many spells and traps and you will only have 2 monsters, so you need to be able to go into something else. So yeah, you do play a lot of fusions. Next we have 1 copy of Branded Opening. This is another card that you play just in case you draw the field spell and you do have Albert, so you have some more to search. It's a decent card, so it's a quick play that you discard a card and you either take a Despia from your deck and either special summon it on the field or add to your hand for in defense, and it locks you into fusions for the rest of this turn. But you don't really care too much because you're going to use this card after you do all the plays, and it's a quick play so you can use it during your opponent's turn as well. It's just another target for Albert because you do play 4 copies with Terraforming of your field spell, so there will be scenarios where you already have drawn the field spell, so you don't really want to search another one. So this is why you need to play 1 more copy in order to be able to search with Albert. For the Dark Lord cards, we have 3 copies of Banishment. Of course, it searches you all your Dark Lord cards. It's pretty important. 3 copies of Dark Lord Contact. You need to be able to bring back those monsters, and with first Dark Lord, you can revive Superbia so many times during a single turn, and Superbia, it's not a 100 once per turn, so you can just keep bringing her back and bring back another monsters. Keep in mind that Yugioh can only be special summoned once per turn, so if you want to go for link materials early, what you do is you're going to summon your Superbia. With her effect, you're not going to summon Yugioh, you're going to summon your Indulged Dark Lord, use these for link material, and then you can use your first Dark Lord's effect to bring back Superbia again, and then summon your Yugioh, so you can get to the trap cards or the copy effects. And even if you use these for link materials, you can summon Yugioh during your opponent's turn with the first Dark Lord, so you can get the disruption effect. So basically you can get 4 monsters for free while still keeping an Yugioh on the field during your opponent's turn to copy the trap cards. So you have a lot of revival, a lot of spam, so this is why I think this is what the main focus of the deck should be, and not try to control field card like Christia or Vanities. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. This card is just so much better now because you do play the Despia of Tragedy, so you need to be able to banish it in order to use its effect. So yep, more draw power, it gives you more utility, great card. 2 copies of Trade-In. I don't think you should need to max this out because you only play 6 level 8 monsters. If you were playing cards like Zerato and other level 8s, then maybe it would be good if you were playing Kaijus maybe, but still I don't think you need to play all of those bricks because definitely now Zerato is not a card you should be playing because you have the first Dark Lord, which pretty much does everything that Zerato does and better. So yeah, 2 Trade-Ins are fine. You do play some level 8 monsters, and they're searchable too if you really need to resolve this card. And for the one-offs, we have 1 copy of Terraforming, of course there's a Theater, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, and 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Both of these serve the same purpose, to use the effect of Despia of Tragedy, but Foolish Burial has more utility because if you already can use its effect, maybe with Gold Sarc, or if you allure it or you don't really need it, you can send something to bring back with Contact so you can have a monster. So yeah, these 2 cards give you utility. 1 Monster Reborn, basically a 4th copy of Dark Lord Contact, which you absolutely need to see sometimes in order to go for the plays. And for the trap cards, we have 1 copy of Dark Lord Rebellion and 1 copy of the Sanctified Dark Lord. I don't play the Enchanted Dark Lord because I think that taking control of monsters is not the most important thing these days. Yes, against combo deck it hurts, but usually popping the monsters hurts just as much. But these cards are much better when you're going into established boards, trying to pop cards and trying to negate effects. And also the Sanctified Dark Lord is a way to win in time, which yes, this deck you would think that it loses to time, but actually with a decent hand you can actually win in time with this deck because of this card giving you life points, especially with a card like First Dark Lord, so you can get 4,000 life points. So even if you've used the Yugioh's effect like twice during your turn, during your opponent's turn, you can still win by just activating this card, negating the First Dark Lord, gain 4,000 life points, and that's it. For the extra deck, we have 3 copies of the First Dark Lord. You need to max this out. This is your win condition. You're going to be summoning this card a lot, so yeah, you need to absolutely max this out. It's a really good card. So what it does is that it needs 3 Dark Fairies in order to be fusion summoned, and this is why the Despias are so good in Dark Lords, because they are Dark Fairies, and they give you more monsters to fuse with, because before, when you were trying to summon this either with card like the trap card that summons it, or maybe Anaconda with something something like that. It was very, very neg when you were trying to do it because you didn't have too many monsters, but now you have monsters that get effects when fusion summon, and they are dark fairies, so their absolute synergy was always there. So you need to be able to summon this as quickly as possible, and it's your main win condition. So if you summon with Morningstar, it nukes your opponent's board, and it has a quick effect that during a main phase you pay 1000 life points to special summon a fairy from your hand or graveyard in defense. Usually what you want to do is summon Superbia during your opponent's turn, then summon back the Yugioh that you have used these two for link material during your previous turn, so you can get access to the spells and the traps from the grave as well. So yeah, and it's a 4000 beater, which you're going to be just attacking for game very, very quickly with this deck. You do play one more fusion monster. We play one copy of DESPIA Darklord. So this card is here because sometimes you won't have enough monsters to summon the first Darklord, but you still need to be able to fusion summon to get effects from the graveyard, and this card needs a DESPIA monster and a light or dark monster, so you don't really need a lot to summon this. And during the main phase it has a quick effect that it changes the attack of all other monsters on the field that are not level 8 or higher fusions to attack to 0. So yeah, and if it dies, then you can add to your hand a special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a DESPIA monster. You don't play Fallen of Albaz, but you're going to be special summoning a DESPIA monster. So yeah, it's a decent card. It's not the best, but it's something you can summon when you don't have enough resources to summon the first Darklord, so it's a decent one to have. For the Xyz monsters, we have one copy of 38, of course, if you need to negate spells, one copy of Photon Lord if you need to negate effect monsters, and one copy of Dingirsu, which is good going second to try to break boards. All of these are very easy to summon just because of Superbia, and of course the Dramaturge. These cards just give you easy access to level 8 monsters. One, you can special summon a lot of easily with either the first Darklord or without the contact, the Monster Reborn, and the other, when you fuse it away, it's just gonna special summon itself. So yeah, very, very easy to summon these. And for the links, we have one copy of Condemned Darklord. You hardly ever summon her, but she's here just because you can. All of these monsters, usually you're going to be summoning either Napaloosa turn 1 or Borrelsword turn 2. These are the ones you go to a lot, but you don't really need to play a lot of stuff in the extra deck. If you want, you can play Super Poly, at least in the main deck or in the side deck, and play a lot of Super Poly targets. The extra deck is not really tight, so you can fit in whatever you want. And Super Poly is actually really good with Despias because they need light or dark monsters, so you can use them as generic Super Poly targets as well. But still, I didn't think this format is really worth to main deck Super Poly. Siding it, yes, and then you can play Anaconda as well, but I don't play it, so these are the cards I play. So Condemned Darklord, of course. One copy of Masquerena. For the Nightmares, we have Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Apollousa, it's the card you're going to be summoning a lot, and in Apollousa that has a 38 backing it up on the field is actually very, very scary. So decks that can summon 38 and Apollousa, I think are really, really good because you can just use all 4 negates of Apollousa because you can just redirect attacks with 38 on itself. So yeah, this is a really good combo. One Borrelsword, try to win, and one Avramax because sometimes against some decks, Masquerena Avramax is just unbeatable. So yep, that's the deck, guys. I think that Despias just gave Darklords like a huge boost and made it a decent, not roguish, but a tier 2.5 kind of deck that can actually compete because Darklords never had that opportunity, and now I think that they have the tools in order to be able to compete. It's such a fun deck. I think it makes it much more interesting than just drawing 10 cards during a turn, ending on Avantis Fiend. That playstyle was just absolutely awful, at least for me. So yep, I've been enjoying this deck a lot, so I hardly recommend this is going to be able to win events, but if you guys are a fan of Darklords, then I recommend this deck. Try it out. It's a lot of fun. You're going to have some success, but you're going to have a blast when playing. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.